We can look into that. Two of them
Good morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Bill Wooldridge.
Oh, good morning, Rotarians. How are our heads? Heavenly Father, we in Hudson Rotary are very fortunate and blessed to live in a beautiful and peaceful town. Please take care of those less fortunate who live in parts of Africa, the Ukraine, and the Middle East, which are suffering from hatred, war, and famine. Please bring peace to these terrible times. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Bill. And lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Jenny Fraser.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. And now the four-way test. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Jenny. We have one visiting Rotarian with us again today. It's his second visit, Tom Ditto. Tom? Welcome.
Keep showing up, you guys make me know.
And our president, Terry Bortnick.
Thank you. Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, guests. So we're testing your spontaneity this week. We have gotten the changing of the guard dinner planned for next week. So you should have gotten an email. Some people have turned in their checks already. We will be having it at the Blue Canyon again this year. It's $45 a person. And when you are there, you will order your dinner. There will be 4 choices for you: tenderloin, their trout, the pasta, and a chicken. So you'll go ahead and you'll order that there. The salad will be their seasonal salad. The dessert will be a creme brulee. So that's how we'll do that. So you don't have to give us ahead of time what you're ordering. You'll do that the night of the dinner. Tom?
The date is what?
The date is the 20th, Thursday night. It's a Thursday night, the 20th at 6 o'clock at the Blue Canyon. And I'm going to send around a sign-up sheet for those of you who want to let us know you're coming but haven't turned in your checks yet. Some of us have already done that. And that's fine. I don't need to give them a number until next Tuesday. So we're good. No meeting on the 19th. Yes, meeting on the 26th. No meeting on the 3rd. Okay. So we're hamming and egging it this next few weeks. We will not have a meeting on Wednesday next week. We will have our changing of the guard dinner on Thursday night. We will have a meeting the following week on the 26th. We will not have a meeting then on July 3rd. Then we'll be back to business as usual, okay, with our weekly meetings. Okay, everybody. Pat is going to be sending around you want to talk briefly about it, for sign up for, art, not art in the park, yeah, art in the park.
Yeah, Hudson Art, and also the beer garden. So there's 3 sheets, one for each of the days. The Hudson Art event is Sunday, July 28th. And then the beer garden is Friday, August 9th and 10th. So there's 1 sheet for each day. You can read, you can see the dates at the top, and we've also put on here what the responsibilities are for each job. So if you're need a position where you're not as mobile, there's opportunities there, but make sure you pick the ones that are appropriate for your abilities. And so this generally makes us, this will probably make us somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 this year. So looking for everybody's participation. So we'll start it up here with Dave and we'll work it around.
Once I get his clipboard back, I'm going to send this around then because I forgot a clipboard. So we'll send this around during the meeting also. The beer garden is fun. It's and I'm sure the art project will be. Oh, you want to just hook it on there? Excellent, thank you. We have, those of us who have done this for the last couple of years at the beer garden have had a really good time. You get out in your neighborhood a little bit. We get to promote ourselves a good bit. So it's good for the organization. It's good for us, and fills our coffers a little bit. So if you're available any of those times, please join in. It's fun. And easy. It's easy work. So, okay. I think that's it for me for now. And Marilyn is going to introduce our speaker.
Good morning, Rotarians. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce Chief Jerry Barnes. I think firefighting is in his DNA. I really do. Chief Barnes has been the chief here in Hudson for the last 11 years. And in addition to being the fire chief, last year he was also named as our Jimmy Sutphin Award winner for the Rotary. And we're very, very pleased to have done that in honor of his 10th year of serving with us. Chief Barnes is a true asset to our community, and he's been a good partner for us, and we've done so many things together, starting with the purchase of, I think it was a cart or a transport bed, and we helped get things through COVID. We led the drive for $25,000 for personal protective equipment. And the most recent thing that we did with them was outfit all 3 ambulances with state-of-the-art pulse oximetry. So we've been good partners, and I'm really, really pleased to introduce Chief Jerry Barnes. Give him a warm Rotary welcome, please.
Good morning, everyone. I think I know most of you in the room, but I'll do a real brief knowledge about me for those of you, a few of you that don't know me. I hit a bit of a milestone this year personally. I started out as a very young boy, myself and 4 of my friends. We started the Hudson Junior Fire Department when I was 13 years old. And so we spent 4 years with that, and then I became a probationary firefighter, then joined the fire department. So I hit 50 years in the fire service this year. So that's a big milestone. Then I've been on the Hudson EMS. I spent some time there, and then I went out and went to Twinsburg for 15 years as a paramedic, and then I came back to Hudson EMS when I was asked to become the chief of Hudson EMS. And so I've got 33 years there. And some of you, some of the long timers in Hudson may remember me. I owned a business with my dad, Hudson Appliance, for 25 years. So got a lot of time, and I am a lifelong resident in Hudson. And as Marilyn said, it is into my DNA. I'm a fifth generation firefighter, so a member of my direct family has been on the Hudson Fire Department for 121 years. So it is kind of born and bred into me, as they say. So the reason that I'm here, my friend Dave asked me to come and speak because there seems to be a little bit of a hot topic about primarily the fire department, but interconnected fire and EMS right now. There's a number of reasons that I think it's on the mind of people, but we want, as Dave said today when we spoke, it's better to have the facts than a little bit of conjecture. And so we wanted to let people know some of the facts about fire, mostly fire, but we'll throw in a little bit of dabble about EMS as well, to be able to let people know what the facts are and let you know what's going to be coming down the road here, because there are some big things that council has asked to have happen that you'll be hearing about over the next probably at least 6 months to a year that will impact in some great way fire and EMS. So I thought it was important to bring some of these facts to you ahead of time, and then you'll have a better understanding of what they are. So, and we are going to experiment a little bit. I'm the guinea pig here for the AV, so we're going to try to skip ahead on the slides with me instead of answering. So we're going to give this a shot here to see if it works.
Okay, so if you just wait a second, it'll take us a couple seconds to get this up and running, and then we'll try it. Okay, so what you want to do.
So while we're waiting, I think the conversation started. Some of you may remember back right after the beginning of the year, there was a very big, very sad, unfortunate house fire out in the St. Regis area of town, out east of town, real close to Stone Road at the Streetsboro border. And the house basically burned to the ground. Everything was lost. Just a wonderful family, husband, wife, and 2 children. And it was a very dramatic fire in the middle of the day on the weekend. And so a lot of the neighborhood saw it there. And so there were a lot of questions then. And there are still a lot of ongoing questions about why did that happen? And a lot of people that are not quite knowing the facts, it's really easy to kind of fall back on the, oh, well, it's because we have just the volunteer fire department, or it's because of other reasons. Oh, they're so far from the fire department. We need to put in 4 fire stations, satellite fire stations around the area. There are a lot of reasons that can be pointed to why the fire got as bad as it was, or what happened, or because those volunteers aren't professional firefighters, things like that. And none of those are true. And so I'm going to try to point out some of the facts of what actually happened. But really that has less to do with what I'm here to talk about today. But we'll kind of put in a few of those things because I really don't want to focus on that fire. I want to talk more globally about the issue of the future of the fire and EMS and some of the issues that have been brought up. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, you can hit the arrow key. Just click on that.
Okay.
Click on the screen.
This quick experiment, if it doesn't work.
Okay, here we go.
So Hudson EMS, we'll get these couple of slides about EMS out of the way to begin with. This is where we are currently, okay? So we've got the 51 personnel total, myself and the assistant chief and the 2 lieutenants, they're the full-time personnel. Then we've got a number of part-time people, a number of volunteers that are non-paid, that are paramedics and EMTs. And typically a normal shift down there, we've got the 5 people on duty that are 24/7, 365, and they're staffing the 2 ALS, which we call the Advanced Life Support Squads. And then we have the 2 other squads that are there. And when the 2 primary squads are busy on calls, we can get that 3rd squad, and sometimes that 4th squad can get called and they're needed. And whoever is there, whether that's the assistant chief that's on duty and it's during the daytime, whether there's somebody walking through the station, whether it's we have a firefighter that's on duty there as a fire inspector that's also on EMS. whether it's the executive assistant that's there, my executive assistant, she's also a volunteer paramedic, whether it's someone that happens to be there teaching a class, any of those other personnel that are there, or we can do a callback. We set off the tones, which sets off people's phones. Anybody that lives nearby, they can come back to the station. However, we can get the next available people, they can staff that third squad. And then if that squad goes out, the next available people, theoretically, we can get that fourth squad out. So that's how we staff those other two vehicles. It's fairly rare for the fourth squad to have to go out, but it does happen occasionally. At the bottom is the EMS budget. Just kind of remember that number. Round figure it. It's about $2 million to run EMS on an annual basis, and that has stayed very steady. Anybody that knows me, I'm a very frugal person. And that budget for the almost 13 years now that I've run both fire and EMS, that dollar figure has stayed very, very similar. And so just remember that round figure-ish of the $2 million. We'll try it one more, see if this works. I guess not.
Is it turned on? It's turned on. The remote's turned on.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. All right. Oh, back one, sorry. Okay, here we go. Hudson EMS, just so you know how busy we are, we had 2,500 calls for service last year. So that's a lot. And I thought it was interesting to know Hudson is getting to be an older community. We have a lot of nursing homes, senior care facilities in town. So of those 2,500 calls, more than 1,400 of them, 57%, were either at a nursing home, assisted living, or senior care facility, or involved a patient over the age of 65. So a lot of our work is being done with senior citizens. And then this one is a particular thing I wanted to mention. Of those 1,400 plus, 98 of those were for what we call a lift assist. And that's not so surprising, but what's really an aggravation for us, and my friend Sue, who's on EMS, will attest, when you're going to a nursing home, an assisted living, or a senior living location, and you walk in the door at 2 a.m., and there are 5 staff members sitting at the desk, and you're called to come do a lift assist to pick somebody who's off on the floor, who's not injured, and you've got those 5 staff members there that haven't bothered to get up from the desk, and we're being called to come help pick that 98-pound woman up off the floor to get her back onto her walker, get her back into bed. That's a point of contention for us, because why are we, an emergency medical service, being called to pick up a person who slid out of bed onto the floor that's not hurt? We're wasting resources. We're wasting the time of our emergency medical personnel. And there's 5 staff members there reading their book or watching TV or doing whatever that either didn't answer the call button or didn't bother to get up. And that is just about the most aggravating thing that you can possibly imagine. And we've got a number of those facilities in town, and you can probably predict that there's 1 or 2 of them that are not top quality ones in town. And those are the repeat offenders that we go back to. So I just wanted to point that out, that we do get aggravated sometimes. And those are the kind of things that aggravate us, because you're taking us away from being able to go to a real emergency. And once we're there and we're helping that patient out, we can't just get up and leave. And you wouldn't believe the number of times we get another call when we're there helping that patient. And we can't abandon them to go to that other call. And now another squad has to go out to go to the next call. And that's very frustrating for us. And so it's a point of contention for us. Okay, next slide, please. Hudson Fire, currently, we have 37 personnel there. That's the list of full-time people. We're blessed with an incredible fire prevention bureau where we're able to do all the inspections of all the businesses in town with our fire inspector. We have fire educator. Anybody that knows firefighter Kevin, he's the face of the Hudson Fire Department. He's going to all the schools and daycares and doing that fire education for the kids, preschool all the way through 3rd grade, teaching the stop, drop, and roll and all that stuff. And I'll tell you, If you ever get in a truck with him at the Memorial Day Parade, you'll know not to be there next year because everybody recognizes firefighter Kevin, and you blend into the background and become invisible because everybody knows him. And so we've got that wonderful group of people, and then we have the two part-time members of the department are our brothers, the Alexander brothers, Jeff and Joe. They're my two assistant chiefs. And then we have 29 paid-on-call volunteers. Paid on call just means that they've got the pagers and they get paid to leave their job that they're at to come to a fire call. And so we've got captains, lieutenants, our Lieutenant Chief Engineer, Jeff Graber. He's been with the department the longest, been there 48 years. And he takes care of our vehicles, apparatus, and does all that. And if you ever see him around town, he's in a wheelchair. He's got muscular dystrophy now, and so he can't respond to calls with us, but he still keeps coming down after all these years and managing all of our vehicles and equipment. And then we have two lieutenant and the 24 actual firefighters that are doing that job. Typically, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is when we have the daytime staff, typically those full-timers and the two part-timers that are on duty there at the station. And then the rest of the time, weekends and evenings, that's when the paid-on-call volunteers come in. And we do have a duty officer, and that duty officer is one of the 9 officers that whenever you have like your smoke detector at home beeps, but you don't have any smoke in the house, you don't have anything going on, but you're home alone, you need some help resetting that, putting a new battery in, you can't reach it, you don't know what to do, you can call. We're that last bastion of assistance in town. You got the raccoon in the attic, you don't know what to do, you call the dispatcher. Those calls roll over to us. So that duty officer is the one that's on 24/7, 365. We will come out and help you out. The typical response, if you call for help at the Hudson Fire Department, during the daytime, you're going to get 15 firefighters and the duty officer, and typically myself, the chief. And nights and weekends, you're going to get 18 firefighters, that duty officer, and myself, the chief. You see the fire budget again, about the $2 million. So combined, fire and EMS, about a $4 million total budget for the two. Okay, next slide, please. This is a really busy slide. I'm not going to go all the way through it, but I just wanted to let you know. This is the first time I'm going to just pause and talk a little bit. One of the things that resulted from that fire out on St. Regis was City Council had a few of the neighborhood residents that asked the question, what can we do to get the fire department here quicker? In their minds, it took us too long to get there. They didn't have the times, they didn't understand, or not understand, I apologize. They didn't have the impression that we got there soon enough. And anybody that is having a fire emergency, time slows down. And the impression is, the first thing that I saw on Facebook is it took us 30 minutes to get there. Absolutely not the fact. Our duty officer was there in 4 minutes. I was there in 6 minutes. The first fire engine full of firefighters was there in 11 minutes. And understanding that we use a NFPA standard. It's NFPA 1720, and that standard for a department of our size with the population density that we have says that the goal for a fire department like ours is to be able to get to any fire in any portion of our town 80% of the time within 14 minutes and with 6 firefighters. And we got 10 firefighters there in 11 minutes. So we beat the time by 3 minutes. So we did our job according to NFPA. We beat it by 3. We beat it by 4 additional firefighters. We're supposed to get 6. We got 10. And then we got 8 more. So we got 18 firefighters there. And so we exceeded the expectation of the National Fire Protection Agency, but the residents got the impression that that wasn't quick enough. And so I understand. It seems like forever. The house is burning. It's an emergency. It's excruciatingly long. But we did what the expectation was, understanding that's typically from our station about a 6-minute drive doing the speed limit. People say, well, you're supposed to drive 100 miles an hour to get here. My house is burning. State law allows us to drive 10 miles an hour faster than the speed limit and no more. So understand that. So a number of things impact this. And the reason I put this slide up is the result of that fire. A number of people asked city council members, what can we do to reduce that response time? So a couple city council members came to me and said, Chief, can you look into what can be done to reduce the response time? And I explained everything to them and said the only way to do that with our current model with one fire station located in the center of Hudson is to put people on station, firefighters, in the hours that we don't have people there. So if Monday through Friday, we have staff there with the Prevention Bureau, that means evenings and weekends, we have to put additional people there. So we have to add a crew of 3 people there all those other times. And we did the math, we put a committee together, we did the math. That means hiring 30 part-time people to staff all of those hours, to have one engine crew sitting there every hour that those current members are not there. Because that means you have to have an engine crew sitting there all those hours. Those 30 additional people, because we did a poll and we thought about 12 of our current members would be interested in doing a shift on the weekend or evening as a paid part-timer. So that means hiring 18 additional part-time people, doing that math for every holiday, every weekend shift, every night shift, filling that and doing all that math. We put together what that budget would look like. $6,500,000 plus the still EMS budget of the $2 million. It's a big addition onto what we're currently doing. That's huge. Now, one of the big important details to understand, council wanted to know, what is that going to do for our response time? That 11-minute response time to get that fire engine there. Because remember, the duty officer isn't going to change. The chief's response time is not going to change. We're still going to be there in the same amount of time. That fire engine that got there, that's going to reduce that response time by about 3 minutes. On a nighttime situation, it could reduce that response time by at the most 5 minutes. So from 2 million to 6,500,000. So adding 4.5 million to reduce the response time for between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on time of day. How many fires is that going to really impact things? Looked back for 10 years. How many working residential structure fires has Hudson had every year for the last 10 years? 2. 2 a year, every year for the past 10 years. Not very many. So do the math, cost effective, value. I leave it to other people. That's not my job to decide what's the value of spending that money. That's what council has to decide. That's one proposal. I did what council asked me to do, ran the numbers, made that proposal to council. We call that the hybrid option, okay? 2 years ago, council had asked me to consider what happens if we stop getting the volunteers able to do the job of fire and EMS? What if we had to do what Stowe did and become all full-time? Fire medic combined department. Next slide, please. We put together all these numbers and came up with what we would do to look like Stowe, to have an all full-time, all fire medics, $9,500,000. Frightening number. And here's the kicker. of the current fire and EMS personnel, approximately 85% of them would no longer be on the department. That's because of a couple of things. Either they are not interested in being on a full-time combined department, or they currently have a full-time job that pays more than we would be able to pay them as a fire medic, or they're old enough that they're working their way towards retirement and wouldn't want to be starting in a new retirement system that they would only get 5 years into or whatever. Or they are an EMS only person that doesn't want to do fire, or they're a fire only person that doesn't want to do EMS. For whatever those reasons are, we lose 85% of the knowledge base, that institutional knowledge, I call it, that are currently part of those two incredible departments. Think about what those people know, the knowledge, the experience, everything that they have. Think about Sue sitting right here, one of your members. I joined in 1980, Hudson EMS, and Sue was already there. Think about what Sue knows, what she's experienced, her ability. Yeah. Think about
You're
her
mistaken.
abilities.
You're mistaken.
Yes. My friend Sue knows so much about EMS and has the ability and experience to do so much. And we kick her to the curb and say, you can't be a firefighter? You can't be a fire medic? She doesn't want to be a fire medic. So because we want to get to 2 house fires a year, 3 minutes quicker, we say, see ya. That's what happens. That's the side effect of going to a combined paid fire EMS department. And you're going from a combined $4 million to a 9.5. And that doesn't include the infrastructure increase of, if you're going to have a combined department, why not put satellite stations in other locations? Each satellite station is about $7 million to build. If you're going to put one satellite station in, what neighborhood do you put it in? Well, we got a centralized one. We got 4 other quadrants in town. 7 times 4 by my math is $28 million. If the figures say there's not one quadrant that deserves a fire department satellite station more than the rest, how do you pick which quadrant it goes in? EMS stats say right now, where does the EMS satellite station go? One out by Laurel Lake and one down by Hudson Grant. So that's at least 2. So that's $14 million worth of satellite stations. Our current fire department EMS shared station is 45 years old. It was designed to last 50 years. That station would cost somewhere in the area of $15 million to replace. So all that being said, the current reason that the fire department is on the mind of everybody, I went to council, reviewed all this, and the decision was we need to do a needs study. We have to have a consultant come in, pay somebody a whole bunch of money that's not Jerry, because right now this is all just Jerry's numbers based on a lot of really good facts and 50 years worth of knowledge stuck up here with a whole bunch of my friends and fellow firefighters and EMS people that helped me collect all these numbers. And I think we're really very, very accurate here, but we need to have other professionals get this needs study done. And that needs study will be asking you, the public, what do you want to see? Put it all together. There will be public meetings. There will be opportunities to weigh in. What do you want to have? Put it all together, get that study done. Then city council can look at it and go, what do we need to do now? What do we need to do 5 years from now? What do we need to do 10 years from now? Do we need to break ground on a new safety center right now? Do we need to move into a new type of department in 5 years, 10 years? Do we need to do major renovations to the current station now to be prepared for a new safety center in 5 years? Do we need to design a new station now and break ground in 3 years? What do we need to do? But let professionals get that study, give it to city council, and let those decisions be made. And that study is going to be done in the next 6 months. They already put out the RFP. That's going to come back in the next couple of months and hopefully be done before the end of the year. And that way, that input from the public can take place and the study can be completed. We'll have a roadmap from very qualified professionals, and then we can see where we're going to go. My hope is that enough people can see the benefit to what we have, can see that it's working very effectively, both personnel-wise and cost-effectively, and see until and unless that doesn't work, what's the need for change? There will be the day that Sue's not there, I'm not here, and a number of those people that are currently doing this job retire, aren't there, and we have to change. But until that date comes, unless something dramatic happens, unless there's a need determined by city council, I personally don't see that we need to make that change in the style of the two departments that we have. That decision is not mine to make. Whenever and whatever that decision is, we'll flex and move and change to whatever that is. However that much costs, however much that costs, and what that looks like. 1 new station, 5 new stations, 4 million, 2 million, 6 million, 9 million, 28 million, whatever that is, again, out of my hands. I'll just say, I wanted to bring the picture of what it looks like now, what it could look like in the future. And then that study will be able to paint that picture of what the options are, because there are 10 other options that a consultant could bring in. This is just 3 of them. What we have, what a hybrid model that is in Jerry's mind looks like, and what a full-time combined model looks like. Okay, next slide, please. And I did want to talk a little bit about the duty officer. This is a savings thing that we do. We talk about the volunteers, and remember, they have to leave their job and stuff to come to a fire call. For the fire department, I think maybe we missed one slide. Can we go back one? Yeah. Fire department, remember, we had 2,500 EMS calls. Fire department had almost 600 calls for service last year. 300 of them were handled by the entire fire department, but 200 of them were false alarms. That's how ridiculous the smoke detector going off that is not really a fire. And then of those remaining 100 calls, only 40 of them were actually some sort of a fire. But remember, that includes a car fire, a grass fire in the backyard, a smoking mulch fire, a dumpster, an oven, and then structure. And remember that 2-year or 10-year average of only 2 a year. Next slide. I talked about the duty officer. We have that one duty officer on duty 24/7. That's covered by the 9 officers, and they're in charge unless I show up and take command. And I rarely take command from them because I want them to have that experience. I sit next to them, offer advice if they need it, but I let them run it unless it's really, really bad. And of those 590 calls, remember, we had those 590. Of those, 290 of them, the duty officer handled that by themselves. So we didn't have to call the entire fire department out. And that's for the raccoon in the attic, the beeping smoke detector with no smoke scene, anything like that. So literally half of the calls, we don't call the whole fire department for, saving A, not having to inconvenience the fire department, B, the wear and tear on the fire apparatus, C, not having to pay into all, 20 of the firefighters coming in, you're paying the one duty officer for that 1 hour of doing that. So it's a cost savings, it's an equipment wear and tear savings, and you're not disrupting the whole town, having all those firefighters coming in, lights and siren and everything. So it's a process that we designed that's working really, really well for us. Next slide. response time, all the way back to that, which is what this kind of started out as, is how do we reduce the response time? What is response time? That's from the time 911 is initially called by the complainant until that first fire apparatus arrives, not the duty officer, not the chief. It's when that first fire truck full of firefighters arrives. So that time frame. What changes that, or what can modify that? Time of day is the big one here, because remember, volunteers, nobody's sitting there on station at night. Nobody's sleeping there. The firefighters are at home. They're asleep. Now, I'll look around the room. The majority of us in the room are older gentlemen. What do you have to do when you wake up in the middle of the night first thing? Fire pager goes off. If you don't head towards the restroom, knowing that that fire could take 10 minutes or 10 hours, you're going to be in trouble pretty quickly. And if you're standing out on the side of Route 8, not many options as far as what you got to do if you got to go pee. So many of us take that quick trip to the restroom. So that's delaying your response to get out the door a little bit. Then you've got to get dressed, get to your car, get out to the station, get out of the car, get inside without slipping on the ice while you're running across the bay or running across the pad. That's my Jerry, shut up, your time is up alarm. And not get hit by one of the other firefighters driving in the parking lot. Get inside. Now you've got to get geared up. Almost 70 pounds worth of equipment put on. By the time you're in that truck fully dressed with the air pack, you're putting on 68 pounds of equipment. And you've got to put all that on in the fire truck. And before that truck can leave, everybody has to be in, dressed, and seatbelted. Then the truck can start and leave. The driver has to have looked on the map or looked on his phone and determined where he's going to go. Now the truck can leave. Then the truck has to drive the 10 miles an hour max over the posted speed limit to get to that place. Time of day, incident distance. What if you're going to the turnpike? Do we have any turnpike exits? Sorry. Do you have any turnpike exits and entrances in Hudson? No, we got to go to Streetsboro or Boston Heights. We cover 5.5 miles of the turnpike to get to Route 8, to get to Ashbrook development. We got the railroad tracks blocking us. We have some places that take over 10 minutes to get to once you've left the station. So get up, pee, dress, drive to the station, dress, drive to, and we're supposed to get there in less than 14 minutes. Tough to do sometimes. Snow, rush hour construction, or rush hour blockages in town. We know how that does. Road construction, anybody that's tried to drive through by yours truly in the last couple of days knows that. So all those things impact response time. Last slide. This is what I talked about briefly, the NFPA standard. Now, we are not mandated to meet this. It's a goal. Understanding that I did a quick study, and of our 12 surrounding neighbors, 2 of them are able to meet the NFPA response standard. The standard based on our population density is 6 firefighters within 14 minutes, 80% of the time. Hudson, when we have daytime staff staffing the station, 6 firefighters within 9 minutes is our average, but we have a 7-minute average. That's when I say average, that means factoring out the going to the turnpike, going to Ashbrook, those oddities that are way out there, getting stopped by the train on Heinz Hill Road. Plug those out. We have a 7-minute average. When the station is not staffed, evenings, weekends, we're supposed to be able, we have that average of 13 minutes, supposed to be there in 14. But if you factor out those oddities, we have a 10-minute average. So I think we're doing pretty darn good for the paid on call volunteers being able to beat the NFPA standard with what we have. So I just wanted people to have the facts. That's what we currently have. I think that's the last slide, but let's make sure my brain's not dead. It is. Okay. Anybody have any questions for me before I get off the stage?
So are there things that you might recommend, things that even relate to this St. Regis or St. Ives situation that could have made that less of a total disaster? And when I say total disaster, no one was hurt.
Mhm.
Let's always remember that. I mean, that's really our primary thing is human safety first. Property can be replaced.
Right.
But are there things that we as homeowners, residents, neighbors can do to lessen the impact of things like that?
There
That's a
are,
softball. to
great
me.
question. There are 4 things, 2 of them which I can talk about publicly. One is the room where this fire started did not have a smoke detector in it. The door was closed. The nearest smoke detector was out in the hall outside of it. The fire burned for a period of time, unknown exactly, but best guess from the state inspector that came out and investigated the fire along with our guys was about a half an hour. It burned inside that room. And so had there been a detector inside that room, we would have had a much earlier notification. Secondly, when the alarm was activated, it was the type of alarm that alerted the resident via their cell phone, but did not call 911. The resident wasn't home. They finished driving home, then came in the house, then discovered the fire, then called 911. They assumed it was a false alarm. So they didn't call 911 when they got the alarm on their phone. Finished the drive home, went in, opened the door, found the fire, then screamed to his wife, call 911. So all of those issues put together created the situation of where it was. Since you asked, Tom, can we put up that photograph of the fire? And before you do, don't put it up quite yet. I'm going to say, this is the photograph of the fire. Now, 911 was called. Our duty officer and myself arrived, and the fire engine arrived, and about 1 minute went by. So this is 12 minutes after 911 was called. You can go ahead and put it, this is what the house looked like when we arrived, and tell me if we could put out the fire and save the house. The very top one, not on the Rotary, the very top one on that thumb drive. Yeah, not on that. Go back to the thumb drive and pick the first all the way at the top. Close all that out. Go away from that presentation and just go on the thumb drive to the first item on the thumb drive. Okay, sorry. I brought this just in case someone asked, but a lot of people say, oh, it was a small fire when you arrived. There you go. Holy Moses. That's what the house looked like. And actually, that's not the best picture. There's another one, if you can find it, at the very top of the thumb drive. That was the second one, so. There you go. That's the one. And so this is our truck arriving and us pulling this one here. That's the one. That was us pulling the hose off of our truck. This is the guy pulling the hose off of the truck, and that's what the house looked like. And I don't care what fire department you are. And that is, remember, 12 minutes, and we have 14 minutes per NFPA to arrive. You could have had the fire station down the street. When the duty officer arrived at 4 minutes, the fire was first floor, second floor, and coming out the attic. It wasn't quite that bad yet, but that's what it looked like at 12 minutes. Nobody's putting that house out. Nobody's saving the house. And I say it with all due respect, nobody could have saved that house. I don't care what professional, full-time, combined, blah, 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 who was there. Nobody could have done it. I sleep very well knowing that we did a great job with what we did, and we're not responsible for that house burning either. So, yes, ma'am.
So just a comment, seemed like if they got a notification to their phone, somebody should have went the extra mile and paid to make sure that the fire department was notified instead of their phone.
You have that option when you set up a
Correct.
fire alarm system. You have the choice of it calls me and 911.
Correct.
It calls 911 first, then me. It calls just 911. You have that choice. And
I think that
many
choice
people
might need to be taken away
understand
and
and
just
know that
notify.
you have 90% of your alarms that go off in your house are false alarms. Remember, 200 of our 300 calls are false alarms. I think it's 91% of the fire alarms that happen in this country are false alarms. So many, many people make the choice to call me first and not 911. They were one of them based on statistics, and they had had a history of false alarms at their house. So they were basing it on history and statistics, and they were not far away from home when they got the alarm. They finished driving home, and unfortunately, this time it didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's not their fault.
No,
That is
I know it's not,
statistics and
but,
history.
but you never know the materials that they actually use. They say they use these materials and sometimes they use different
True.
material. Those materials catch fire a lot quicker. And then flashover happened because there was no more in that room when it was closed over.
100%.
So flashover happens and then the walls are burning interiorly outside that room.
I'll tell you, people make choices. Yesterday, I'm at the fire station. My wife's out of town. My burglar alarm goes off. Did I call PD to go to my house? No. I left the fire station, drove home, found the Mylar balloon floating up against the detector in my house. I made, most people would say, the wrong decision, but I knew that the odds of somebody breaking into my house, knowing all the nosy neighbors that I have that pay attention, odds are nobody's breaking into my house at 2:00 in the afternoon on a sunny day. So I made that choice. I made the personal choice. People make personal choices all day long. And I in no way want to be blaming the family. They made choices that everybody makes all day long.
Choices.
It unfortunately, that's what occurred. Okay, yes. Any other questions?
Couple things. One, thanks for the presentation. I mean, you had to do a lot of research, but we learned a lot about just about the fire department, how it's structured as well. And that decisions that have been made in the past aren't because you haven't looked into them. But so a couple things. You know, one is it sounds like you need a porta potty as well to to attach to your fire truck, so that way you can.
We've been inventive in the past.
Yeah.
With some of the citizens.
So what actually intrigued me is the fire alarm system. So like our house, we just have smoke detectors, which if you're not there, it's not calling
They
anyone.
don't call out.
So I'm just wondering is, I know it's a whole new topic, but are there any systems you recommend and any estimate of how much those cost? Because now I want to look into it.
Yeah. Fire alarm systems can be as inexpensive nowadays, as you said, the smoke detector that's called just a local alarm that only alerts you if you're there, to the full-blown system that calls 911 when you're not there. And that can be in the, if it's hardwired and is in every room in the house, you can be in the $10,000 range if it's installed after the house is built. If it's installed while the walls are out and it's wired in, then you're maybe talking $3,000. So it really is, if it's a renovation, then you have to fish it through the walls and do all that stuff. But there are RF signal ones that do it and Bluetooth connected and stuff. So technology has changed immensely. So yeah, anywhere in between. Yeah, and there are 50 different monitoring companies, and I can get you a list of the local ones that come Akron, Cleveland area. But you can do it through your burglar alarm system if you have one. You can have a separate fire alarm monitoring company. But yeah, there are dozens of them just in Akron that you can use. And if you're interested in one, I can give you a list. Yes.
On a positive note, friends of mine heard that you were going to speak today, and Mr. and Mrs. Claus wanted to thank you once again, as always, for providing the transportation to our Santa on the Green, which will be December 7th this year. So we're looking forward to a repeat performance.
It's always
Thanks.
our pleasure. Absolutely.
And I just also would like to thank you and the department for your work with Safety Town, which I believe is going on right now,
Mhm.
teaching our youngest explorers how to be safe and hopefully teaching their parents too, and maybe their grandparents.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to come today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hold on one second, I'm going to ask you. Oh, I do have a quick question. When people put the pet stickers on their windows, do you guys actually pay attention to that? Being a pet owner, that would be my only concern is, are my pets out of the house?
Yeah, great question. The pet finder sticker on the window, we do look for those. I will put a caveat in, back in the day, we had the child finder stickers put in the child bedroom. Sadly, pedophiles look for those stickers as well. They have come on the wayside and are no longer preferred. So I hate to bring up a ugly thing, but yeah.
Good to know. Okay, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Would you pull our Rotabuck winner today? We have a payout of $8 today. 267 in the jackpot.
Okay. The last four digits, 2021.
2021. Thank you. Thanks so much. 2021. Ah, congratulations. Hey, all right, Joe, let's see. It's in there. Okay. Not today. Okay, thanks. Here you go. There's your Rotabuck. All right, did everybody get a chance to sign is there anyone who has not yet seen the sign-up sheets?
Come down the side again.
Oh, okay. All right, well, please make sure before you leave that you get your signatures on there. And- Okay. All right, it looks like we're gonna have some sunshine today, maybe. So get out there and make it a great day.